We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need just a little bit of extra college football content here in the off season to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button. Yes, I am begging for you to smash that like button. Share the video with you if you like the content. Share the video with your family and friends, your psychiatrist, your doctor, your priest, your significant other. Share the video among your social media platforms. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Yes, Kurt Gowdy and Keith Jackson. Welcome in. Welcome into this live show. Before we get any further, remember, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Remember the rules in the chat room. All right, remember the rules, cloak and dagger. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. We are June 22nd. We received an update. Well, we actually received an update. What day is it? It's Thursday. We received an update on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and now this morning from the Arizona State Money Perch. We did not know what to do with it. Finally, everything just sort of collapsed on itself, and we're going to give you the bullet points of what he is, the perceptions coming out of Arizona State. Now, again, Arizona State Money Perch, he's been on this since January 31st. If you've been watching this show, he's been nailing this story from the beginning. I'm not going to go through all the things he has said. He's the one person who's been telling us throughout all these months that there's no deal in front of these Pac-12 presidents. None. Nothing. Other people have been reporting numbers and the deal's been done, but not the grant of rights. No. There's been no comprehensive hard, real numbers presented in front of the Pac-12 presidents. He has an update on that. He does not believe the Pac-12 is going to be able to stay intact. He believes that Washington and Oregon are ultimately going to get what they want in this deal. And that is to be able to move out of it pretty much at any time. I know that might sound a little crazy. Why would any media company sign on a deal that Oregon and Washington could leave pretty much at any time they want? It doesn't make sense. Not in the traditional sense. Not in this era of college football and contracts, conferences with media partners. But we were told this all the way back on episode 52. Months and months ago, that Oregon and Washington was not going to sign a traditional grant of rights. According to the Arizona State Money Perch, that seems to be the case. Whatever deal comes out, it's not going to be. First of all, an update of 2 days ago, it was described to us as difficult numbers. Their expectations, and they expect to get hard numbers here real soon. Arizona State, so if he's correct, all the Pac-12 presidents should be getting hard numbers here very soon. The numbers are difficult. Now, we didn't know, we thought he meant troubling. But the update this morning is what he really meant is it's going to really be difficult to decipher. It's not going to be like so many millions of dollars in this media package divided up by years and teams, and you get how much money each team is going to get each year. It's not going to be that case. They expect it to be a heavy streaming deal. And it's going to be a fluctuating number, depending on a whole bunch of items. That's what their expectation is. They haven't received it yet. They haven't received the real deal yet. Now, did they receive it here in the last 4 hours? Maybe. But as of this morning, the Pac-12 presidents have not received yet still real numbers. So maybe that's changed in the last 5 hours. But up until this morning, no real numbers. What we can tell you is what the Arizona State Money Perch, our guy who's perched at a very high spot, not the highest spot, very high spot, Arizona State Athletics. Not in the athletic department, outside of the university. Their expectations is the numbers are going to be difficult to really decipher. And it's going to take time when they get the deal to figure out what they really got. So they need to get the numbers soon. This isn't going to be something where they get a piece of paper, they get this comprehensive deal, and they're going to say, oh, we're going to play here, there. Our exposure is going to be here, there, here. And we're going to get this much money. Maybe in a good year, we can expect $1 million more. It isn't going to be like that, according to what their expectations is. So, they're going to need these hard numbers soon. Because you got the media, you got the Pac-12 media stuff going on in July 3rd. What is it? July 21st? You got media days happening. Getting ready for the 2023 football season, which is going to be an exciting one in the Pac-12. The conference is going to be exciting to watch. Great quarterbacks. Going to be a fun race for the Pac-12 championship. A lot of great storylines. You do not want to step on those great storylines. Utah going for the 3rd Pac-12 championship in a row. Bo Nix coming back. Michael Penix coming back. DJ Ungwangale playing at Oregon State. Dante Moore going to be a potential starter, 5-star, true freshman starter for UCLA. Chip Kelly. You can go on and on and on and on. The Pac-12 football is going to be great, exciting in 2023. You don't want to step on that. You don't want to step on that. So this isn't going to be something that the Pac-12 presidents, athletic directors get and they look at it and one day they have it all figured out. So the expectations as of June 22nd, according to the Arizona State Money Perch, and you can say, Greg, we don't know who this person is. I understand that. I'm just letting you all know that he's been dead on throughout this whole ordeal. He's been saying, put the brakes on all these reports of a media deal and all this, but it's going to be 25 million, 32 million, 36 million per school per year. It's going to be this or that. He says, we haven't had anything in front of the Pac-12 presidents. Nothing in front of Arizona State. Now he expects it to happen very soon. I do want to apologize. I'm going to be looking at my phone here throughout this live show. We are in the midst of some conversations, so please be patient with me. So getting back to Arizona State Money Perch, he believes that Oregon and Washington are going to get what they want. That they remain engaged, right? The Washington president, she's the big part. She's part of the executive committee. She's the one who's kind of getting the information from the commissioner and sending it off to the other Pac-12 presidents. But they remain engaged. There is the belief, the perception that Oregon and Washington are somehow going to get what they want. And what they want is freedom. Freedom to be able to move out of this deal sooner rather than later, even if they have to sign the deal. That's the real story coming out. And because of that, because Oregon and Washington are going to get what they want, that means there's a very high probability that other schools, knowing that, are going to make sure they get what they need to survive going past 2026. And we're talking about Colorado, we're talking about Arizona, we're talking about Arizona State, and we're talking about Utah. We're talking about all four of them. Before we get on to your comments about all this and your phone calls, I do want to bring up a couple more items. First of all, Deion Sanders, NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, is having emergency surgery tomorrow for a blood clot in his groin, according to the Pat McAfee show. Now, anytime you have an emergency surgery, blood clot, it's dangerous. We're all praying for Deion Sanders to pull on through. We expect him to pull on through. So we're praying for the man. Here's some more news from Brian Howell, who's the Colorado Buffalo beat writer. From Colorado's Deion Sanders, there is no talk of amputation of the foot. In Friday's procedure to fix blood clots is to help blood flow so he can get surgeries to fix the hammer toes and dislocation of his foot. So we at Peek Around the Corner give our prayers to Deion Sanders, his loved ones, his families, to pull on through this surgery and to get healthy. He's having some struggles, and the PATC community hopefully can join me in giving Coach Prime all of his prayers, all of our prayers to pull on through. There's a couple more stories that I have to get to. A lot of people talking about the consultant, the Kansas football. We're going to get to what Kirk Herbstreit said We are going to get to what Kirk Herbstreit said in a moment at PAC McAfee show. But we're going to get to this Kansas Jayhawks story. Consultant recommends Kansas football reduce stadium capacity by Brian Clinton Heartland. Kansas has major plans to turn the area surrounding David Booth Memorial Stadium into a hub for fans to enjoy game days, but it might require a bit of sacrifice to the in-game experience. According to KUSports.com, an outside consultant hired by the University of Kansas is recommending a 55,000 square foot conference center, a 175 room upscale hotel, and even a 2,500 seat concert and event venue for the stadium near the 11th and Mississippi Streets on the northern edge of Kansas campus. However, the firm is also recommending that Kansas shrink the size of David Booth Memorial Stadium to 39,839 seats, a drop of a little more than 7,000 seats from the stadium's current official capacity. You can, I'll provide a link in the description later on. I did not do that before the show. There's a couple more items. The improvements to the football stadium would include increased premium seating options, new chairback seating to replace the bleacher-style seats, which is awesome, new restroom, concession areas, additional concourse, new scoreboards. Now, at just under 40,000 seats, the renovated stadium would be the smallest in terms of seating capacity in the current Big 12. The next smallest would be Baylor Stadium at 45,000. It would be the smallest new Big 12 stadium, although the stadium at Houston-Cincinnati would only be a few hundred seats larger than the Kansas proposal. Now, I've seen a lot of people kind of snicker at this. Why would Kansas reduce the seatings? I think it's obvious. I think this is a very easy call for Kansas to do this. They don't have the room, so they're going to go under just 40,000 seats. I don't think that's a big deal at all. It's about the experience. It's about the college football experience to get your fans to the stadium to enjoy the experience more. Kansas isn't going to roll up a whole bunch of money when it comes to tickets. That's not where they're going to get their revenue. They want more fan engagement in football and giving them a better experience in the stadium. They're putting in, $300 million for all of this stuff? Not all the University of Kansas. In the article, it goes through more of where the funding's coming from. We're not going to go through that. But I think it's a no-brainer. Do it. And going under 40,000, who cares? University of Kansas football, you want your fans to be more engaged than ever and get the stadium up where it's a more beautiful experience for the Kansas Jayhawk fans and the visiting fans. So I don't see a big deal about that. Now, one more thing I think we need to get to here. This is Kirk Herbstreit. I don't know if you guys listen to this at all today. He was on the Pat McAfee show. I want you to listen to this. I want to pause it a couple times during this. It's going to be... Okay, the tweet is, everybody's bracing for the 12-team playoff, but I think people are underestimating how much movement there's going to be in realignment. It's going to be fascinating to see where a lot of these teams end up. Now, this was today, not too long ago. Once again, Kirk Herbstreit, ESPN, talking about realignment. If you remember, Paul Feinbaum a couple days ago doesn't believe the Pac-12 is going to exist the way it does now in 2026. He doesn't think there's much of a chance at all. If you listen, we're going to listen to what Kirk Herbstreit says here. Obviously, these gentlemen work for ESPN. Pat McAfee's going to be working for ESPN, or he does now, but he has a bigger contract and be doing more things for ESPN. Listen to what Kirk Herbstreit says. I'm going to stop it a couple times, and then we'll get to your comments and phone calls. Let's take a listen.
We're going to have so many more answers that I find it interesting. It makes us all look to 24. So that's what I mean when I say blame duck. It's not just that.
You know what? It would help if I start at the beginning.
The lame duck
Here we go.
thing is fascinating because all eyes. I mean, we did it last year. What's the playoff going to look like in 2 years from now? We did that last year. We were looking at it, and all of us, I think, while we're sitting on the set, and we go to commercial break, and we're walking back to the other one, it was like, that would be awesome. Like if that was happening right now, that would be awesome if that was to take place. We're gonna have to do that for another year, seemingly. So that's what you mean by like all eyes are pretty much on next year, even though there's some. I mean, is Kirby? Is his legacy?
Yeah.
Nick Saban bounce. There's a lot of storylines, but it does feel like next year's playoffs are going to be the big topic throughout the entire season. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, everybody's bracing for the 12-team playoff, which is cool and gets a lot of excitement. But I think what people are underestimating is how much more movement there's going to be in the realignment.
Okay, we'll get back to it. So right away, Pat McAfee's talking about the great storylines that are going to be happening here in 2023 season, and which is all true. But Kirk Herbstreit right away jumps in and says, I think most people are underestimating the amount of movement that we're going to see in regards to realignment. And he really focuses in on 2024. So, again, all I can say is behind the scenes, cloak and dagger, ESPN is picking this up and they're putting it down. I mean, they're trying to give you all a peek around the corner. There is a lot of talk right now. And let's get more to what Kirk Herbstreit's going to say. I'm going to stop it again. And I'm going to be very interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comments and phone calls.
I feel like the Big Ten and the SEC, who are the big pillars in this whole thing, I just feel like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but they're not staying at 16. They're going to go to at least 20. And so who's going where, right? I mean, where's North Carolina going? Where's Oregon going? Where's Washington going? Where's Clemson going to end up? Where's Florida State going to go? Where's Miami? Like, there's just so much to me that's fascinating that I'm sure it won't happen. Maybe it will during the season, but I'm guessing it happens after this year.
Okay, so Kirk Herbstreit says, I think the first school he said was North Carolina. Where's North Carolina going? Where's Oregon going? Where's Washington going? Where's Florida State going to end up? Clemson and Miami. I might have missed a few schools. All the schools we know about, right? And he says, I don't think it's going to happen during the season. We're going to play this again. But maybe after the season, we're going to find out a lot more. And this is what we talked about on December, from our standpoint point, what we have heard at Peek Around the Corner. Again, we're not infallible. We do the best we can to give you the best information. We don't try to go over the tip of our skis. We don't try to get out too front of the story. But we said on December 26th, we said it on March 31st, we believe the next big part of the ACC story to drop is the first quarter, second quarter, probably the first quarter of 2024. This is what we were told. And this is what we told you on December 26, 2022, March 31st, 2023. And, Kirk Herbstreit, he's saying, we don't know when it's going to, I don't know when it's going to happen. Will we play it again? In fact, we'll play that little part over again right now.
Going? Where's Oregon going? Where's Washington going? Where's Clemson going to end up? Where's Florida State going to go? Where's Miami? There's just so much to me that's fascinating that I'm sure it won't happen. Maybe it will during the season, but I'm guessing it happens after this year. So when I say lame duck year,
so he's basically saying he doesn't know. Of course, none of us know, but he's saying don't think it's going to happen here, but maybe after the season. And of course, we at Peek Around the Corner believes the next part of this ACC story is going to drop in the first quarter of 2024. And of course, he brought up Oregon and Washington, which, where are they going to end up? Well, they're going to end up in the Big Ten. We don't know when. Peek Around the Corner, we've been saying in 5 months to 5 years from now. Now it's 2 months to 4 months and 9 months, 4 years and 9 months from now. You get the point. We've been on this since day one. And now I find it, we get this Arizona State information on Monday. No, it wasn't. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And according to what Arizona State, what their perception of this new media deal is, Oregon and Washington are going to have some freedom. Even if they sign the deal, they're not going to be tied to this Pac-12 conference somehow, some way, like schools traditionally are when they sign a grant of rights. And now we got Kirk Herbstreit saying people are underestimating the amount of movement that we're going to see. So these dots are just all connecting for us here at Peek Around the Corner. But let me know if you disagree with us or if you got other thoughts. Let's continue to the rest of what Kirk Herbstreit says here.
Oh, me. I get excited about West Virginia Duquesne. I can watch that game and be very, very excited. But
yes,
let alone...
Another example, please. Please, another example so people understand what you're saying.
Yeah, bro, I love any sport. I love any game in college football, but
some of them are tough.
I just think that this is going to be a fascinating time as we sit here and talk next June, getting ready for the 24 season. How many teams are going to be in the SEC? How many teams are going to be in the Big Ten? What's left of the ACC? What's left? Is the Big 12 taking the Pac-12? Is the Pac-12 now the Mountain West? What's left of it?
He's, of course, Kirk Herbstreit doesn't know the future. We at Peek Around the Corner don't know the future, but we know there's just so much going on right now. And I feel kind of handcuffed because, again, we don't want to get too out in front, but we think that first quarter of 2024, when it comes to the ACC, there's going to be, how we say at PATC that we're in the middle of the beginning of the ACC story? We're not at the beginning. We're not at the end of the beginning. We're in the middle of the beginning. First quarter 2024, we're going to finally get out of the beginning of the story, and we're going to get into the middle of this big dramatic story that we think is going to pop. From what we are being told at Peek Around the Corner, which we told you in December of 2022. And Kirk Herbstreit is basically why he's not an employee of Peek Around the Corner. He sure is talking our language. He sure is talking our language. And of course, he throws out there, how many schools are the SEC going to get? How many schools are the Big Ten going to get? And is the Pac-12 going to end up being the Mountain West? How many schools is the Big 12 going to be able to poach for the Pac-12? And that's about it. We don't have to play any more of this. I want to get to your comments. The one piece that I would disagree with Kirk Herbstreit is I don't think there's going to be any, and he didn't say it like this, but maybe by 2024 we get a more clear understanding of how, we're definitely going to get more clear understanding of how this AC story is going to develop, how these schools are going to challenge the grant of rights, can there be a huge settlement, what's going to happen. But what I think what Kirk Herbstreit is also might be saying is we might get even an understanding somehow, some way that what school, ACC school is going where in the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't think Kirk Herbstreit is saying by the 2024 June we're going to know that North Carolina is going to have a Big Ten patch on the uniform, or North Carolina is going to have an SEC patch on the uniform for the 2024 season. That's not going to happen. And I don't think that's what Kirk Herbstreit is saying. I think what he's saying is we're going to know so much more in June of 2024 than what we know in June of 2023. One more thing I want to bring up. Then we'll get to your comments. Look, you don't have to like Kirk Herbstreit. Don't have to like Paul Feinbaum. Definitely don't have to like the fat guy from Minnesota behind the mic. But this Kirk Herbstreit isn't saying this. He's not saying this for clicks and views. You all know that, right? These guys are not saying this. They're saying this because they're hearing so much. All the possibilities. They know consolidation is still happening. They don't know exactly what's going to happen. How could anyone know that? But they know that there's more consolidation is just around the corner here at Peak Around the Corner. So when you have people out there still saying that these are all lies, that there's nothing going on, that, it's just preposterous. It really is unbelievable. We don't know at Peek Around the Corner if Colorado is going to join the Big 12 tomorrow or next week. We don't know when the dagger's going to happen. But we do know, we did not lie about it. We gave you the information, the most information we could give you before the events even happened, that there were major events going on between Colorado and the Big 12. And since then, other reporters have gotten into more details about what happened between Colorado and the Big 12. We didn't say this for clicks or views. We said it because it was the truth. We go where the story goes. We don't exactly know where it's all going to end up, but we know there's a story. I want to say one more thing, and then I'll get off it. First of all, Hero 75, if you believe him, the Money Show says the media patterns of the Big Ten have agreed to pay for the partners, have agreed to pay for Oregon, Washington. We've talked about this before. We don't have that information. It could be true. We just don't have it at Peek Around the Corner. But thank you so much, Hero 75, for your super chat, for your support, your generosity to the show. I appreciate it. I have to I gotta say one more thing. Randomness 873. Thank you for your super chat. If you're Four Corners Schools, you can crack a beer and wait. The door is open anytime in the Big 12. Why not wait for the numbers from the PAC? That's very well what's probably happening right now. Because I can tell you that at least Colorado has done everything. They've done everything. Everything internally, they've done it all. I know people don't believe that. I know they don't believe that. They believe that we and so many other people are just throwing things out there. Even Pete Thamel's lying. We're all lying, I guess. They've done it all. I mean, maybe they're waiting for wait for the numbers. And we think they're going to get the numbers soon. As we said at the start of the show, is because it's going to take more than a couple of days to look at these numbers, because it's going to be very untraditional what the numbers are shown to the Pac-12 presence. I want to say something, though, before we get on. Thank you, Randomness, for your generosity. I'm going to get off this as fast as I can. You know, I graduated from St. Cloud State University in 1991. May 1991. I didn't go to the University of Minnesota. I wouldn't have qualified. I wouldn't have qualified for the University of Minnesota. I wouldn't have qualified for Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin. I wouldn't have qualified for Kansas, West Virginia. I wouldn't have qualified hardly anywhere. St. Cloud State took me in, but I wouldn't have qualified anywhere. I've only got one little diploma hanging on my wall. St. Cloud State, Minnesota State School. They'll take anybody. They took me. The reason I went to qualify, besides my not so great GPA in high school, the reason I wasn't going to qualify for the University of Minnesota is because back then, I don't know what it is like now, but back then, you needed a language in high school. I couldn't do a language. I couldn't even do English. I was still doing speech therapy classes. I still couldn't, and I still can't do it on this show, pronunciate. I've gotten a whole lot better. But what I'm saying is, I couldn't qualify for a Big 10 school, a Big 12 school, a Pac-12 school, an SEC school. I couldn't qualify for any of these schools. So what I'm trying to say is the reason why I can do this show, why we're at the Rebel Outpost of all college football. First of all, I got great support from the wife and the family, incredible support from friends. Second of all, the PATC community. This show would not be possible without you. One of the things, but the biggest part of this show is our curiosity. We're curious. That's one big part of the PATC community. We go where the story goes. I went with that USC story. I went as far as I possibly could. I documented everything. For 3 months, we were on that story. Nobody else was. We were on it. It wasn't because I had 6 diplomas hanging on my wall. Because people trusted me. They thought I was trustworthy. This Colorado story is the same thing. It's not because I got 6 diplomas hanging on the wall. It's because we are curious here at Peek Around the Corner. We go where the story goes. I just want, because we got new people on this show all the time, I just want to let you all know that, because whatever the next story is, wherever the next story is, wherever the next story is, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a scandal at my beloved University of Minnesota. We're going to go where it goes. If at any time the story was Pac-12 made a big deal with Apple, It looks like they're going to make a big deal with Apple. It looks like they're going to expand with 4 teams. It looks like they're going to make more money than the Big 12 schools. We would have went there. We would have gone there. If the story someday is the Big Ten's fracturing, that's where we're going to go at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to go where the story goes. We did it before the USC story. We did it with Notre Dame in the Big Ten. We've done it over and over and over again. I just want to let you all know that. I can barely flip on the show to do a live show. We barely have internet connection here. We can barely do this show, and this show would not be possible at all without the PATC community. Without you guys, the show would be dead in the water. Because I got the best community. We don't have the best host, but we have the best community. And I just want to let you know. So with this ACC story, I need you all to know that there's nobody that's going to outwork us. There's no one that's going to be more curious than us. There's no one who's going to poke around more. I wish you could talk to the sources that we talk to. They would let you know that Greg pokes and pokes and pokes. And we're going to give it to you the best that without destroying the story. That's what we did with the Colorado story. Okay? I just had to get that off my chest. So let's get to your comments. Again, Monovision, without a doubt, you are a stout and devout shouter of clout. Don't worry about those who pout and discount. Holy, if you fumble, let's make it a double. Holy smokes. Monovision, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, we got to get to your comments. I have rambled on. Kirk Herbstreit. You heard what he said. Paul Feinbaum. You heard what he said. Arizona State Money Perch saying that Washington and Oregon are going to get what they want. They just are. That's what Arizona State perception is. So that's why they're sitting in the front row watching to see what Colorado does. You don't believe Kirk Herbstreit. You don't believe Paul Feinbaum. You don't believe the Arizona Money State Perch. You don't believe anybody. That's okay too. Let me have it. Put it in the comments. Give us a phone call at 760. What's the number? 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Okay. Arizona, UConn, Duke added the Big 12 basketball. Here is to hope. John Coy, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for coming on into the PATC community. Joe Zay, nice to see you again. My neighbor found 2 leprechauns in the time the Pac-10 schools have been waiting for a media deal. Kansas schools admitted basically every high school grad until 2021. Well, maybe I could have gotten to Kansas. I know I could not get into the Minnesota University. In the 70s and early 80s, wasn't Colorado strong college football for Division I AA? I don't know if they were strong, but they had people went to the football stadium. They watched the games. They don't even have the football program anymore. They're just a Division I hockey program. To Mazda, Greg is singing is bigger than Greg's cloud chasing. Had to toss another $5. Why do people like the money show get hung up on academics? Isn't that what's killing the Pac-12? I don't know. I wasn't really making a comment towards the money show. I hope them or anyone else. I wasn't taking a shot at anybody. I was just whatever. But thank you so much, Randomness, once again for your super chat. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. I get it. People don't like Black Rain, Omega, Mr. Spartan is in the house, Sparty's in the house. Is there any theater update? No, there really isn't. Colorado's in the center of the stage. Arizona's a couple arm lengths off, but Arizona and Utah are in the front row. UConn is in the 10th row. San Diego State's in the 38th row. that's all that's going on in the theater. Everybody's waiting on Colorado. I heard Pete Thamel in an ESPN, not an ESPN. Well, maybe it was Reese and Thamel podcast. And I'm going to paraphrase it. It was just released this morning. But Pete Thamel basically said, everyone's waiting on Colorado. And Pete Thamel has always been he always believed that they would probably wait for the Pac-12 media deal to be put in front of them. But they are frustrated. They want, maybe they could make a decision here real quick. We've been all... Colorado has... They just have to pull the trigger. And of course, we're not in that room of the chancellor's office. But they've got the buy-in from their donors. If you don't believe me, that's fine. So we'll see. We shall see. Set up the PATCA theater, please. It's the same. It's the same. Colorado's the center of the stage. Arizona's a couple arm lengths off. Arizona State and Utah are in the front row. They're in the first row. They are. Utah, a month ago, wasn't even in the auditorium, but they moved all the way up to the front row. They know. And it gets back to what the Arizona State Money Perch guy told us. Now, of course, he's only letting us know what Arizona State were the Money Perch, the biggest donors, their perception of things, what they're being told. They don't think the Pac-12 can stay intact. Not the way it is. They believe Oregon and Washington are going to get what they want out of the deal. It's just how that has worked out legally, how that has worked out in the so-called grant of rights, I don't know. But we were told this all the way back in episode 52, months and months and months ago. And it's coming up, and it's coming up again. It's like Oregon and Washington, they're going to play the game with the Pac-12. They're going to stay engaged. They could sign a deal, but they're not going to be permanently attached to the Pac-12 for the next 3, 4, 5 years. If they got to move out next year, they're going to be able to move out next year. And that is also part of the equation of what Colorado has to decide, Arizona State, Utah. They all know this. This is not... And we get back to Kirk Herbstreit today on the Pat McAfee show. He's not just throwing this out there. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, because of the Washington State Money Perch 3 days of communication, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we had to move that line from -1.5 back to -6.5. That a Big 12 school will poach a Pac-12 school successfully. The line had moved down, keep going down every week, but the information that we received here in the last 3 days, we had to do it. We had to do it. I've got nothing against the Pac-12. I've got nothing for the Big 12. I'm not a Big 12 hack. No way, no how. I have to go where the story goes. I have to go what people are saying to us, trusted sources. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I forgot. I know that was in the speech bubble of my thumbnail. Yeah, the lines, we had to move that line way up. Way up. -1.5 to -6.5. No, that's the line of the Big 12 being able to poach a Pac-12 school. We had to move it way up. I don't think there's any signing bonus I haven't heard any of that. Colorado knows their number. If they move to the Big 12, it's going to be 31.6, 31.7 million. They're going to anticipate a conference payout of 44 million. And that is before the expanded playoffs happen. They're going to get more money, of course. Holy cow. Tough Tony, thanks for the super chat. If Prime can't coach, does Tim Brewster take over? I wasn't prepared. There's no way Tim Brewster's ever going to be a head football coach ever again at any level. There's no way, no how can that happen. Tim Brewster, for those who don't know, he was the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and holy smokes, what a clown show. That's all I'm going to say. No way. Prime, Deion Sanders, he's going to coach, baby. He's going to pull through this, and he's going to be all right. And if he has to take some time off, I know you were joking, Tony, because you're a Gopher. You know this. Tim Brewster is not taking over. Thank for Colorado. I know he's on the staff, but there's no way. No way. No way. Thank you, Tony, for the super chat, for your generosity. I appreciate it. Unrelated, but do you miss the WCHA and seeing St. Cloud State play Wisconsin in Minnesota annually? Even though I went to St. Cloud, I'm a Gopher. Never was a Husky. Never was a St. Cloud State Husky. I went to one hockey game there. So, do I miss the WCHA? No, I don't. Now, is there a lot of most Gopher fans my age and older, do they miss the WCHA? Absolutely yes. Without a doubt. It was the University of Minnesota that had to give up so much for the Big Ten to have a Big Ten hockey conference. It was Minnesota that had to give up their rivalry games with North Dakota. And most people on this channel don't know what I'm talking about, but Minnesota had to take one for the team. And they did so because Minnesota benefits, the athletic department benefits so much more greatly because of football, because of the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States, and other schools. So in this situation, the University of Minnesota had to take one for the team. Colorado, Arizona on the clock. You're a straight shooter, Black Rain. Thank you, sir. Omega, my brother from another mother. Thank you so much. I meant Arizona State Money Perch. I did not mean Washington State. Again. Sometimes I make mistakes. What are the odds on a -6.5 line? Just curious. I don't know. What is that? 75%? 80%? That's what I'm guessing, but I don't know, Ryan. Someone could look that up. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat, for your generosity. I appreciate it. We had to do it. I can't really... There was a lot of stuff in these emails that don't pertain to anything what we're talking about. Some stuff we can't even talk about. So I did not read a letter verbatim, but from the Arizona State Money Perch, and not just him on the Money Perch, someone that's way higher, their perception, the information that they're receiving is they don't expect the Pac-12 to hold together as it is through 2024. Now, that was through 2024. And that was, that actually was told to us on Wednesday. And then this morning, Then you get the Kirk Herbstreit. I mean, it's just... I don't think... Now, this is my just... Kirk Herbstreit, he wouldn't just say that. He doesn't know. The people who are telling him don't quite know for sure how this is all going to play out. Nobody does. Nobody does. But he wouldn't have said this stuff. I mean, remember, Pat McAfee asked a question that wasn't about realignment. Pat McAfee asked Kirk Herbstreit the question of this is how Pat McAfee started that. He said, last year when we were talking about the 4-team invitational playoff, I'm paraphrasing here, we would all look to see what would the projection 12-team playoffs would look like for the season last year. And we were all saying, wow, this is great. This would be so much fun. We were doing that on Peek Around the Corner. And we're going to do it this year. We're going to imagine that there's a 12-team playoff this year. Even though it's not happening, we're going to imagine it. We're going to go through the season. It's going to be fun to look at. It's going to be great in 2024. It's going to be so much fun. I know there's still purists out there in the PATC community who thinks the 4-team invitational is better, but just bear with me. It's going to be so much fun to watch it play out. That's what Pat McAfee was talking about. How this year, we have this year, maybe, but next year, 2024, that's what McAfee started out. What Kirk Herbstreit, he jumps in and he says, yeah, well, most people are underestimating the amount of movement there's going to be in realignment. And then he went right into it in 2024. He doesn't think anything probably nothing happens this year. But next year, June of 2024, we're going to be talking about how many teams in the SEC, Big Ten, how many schools the Big 12 got from the Pac-12. Does the Pac-12 morph into the Mountain West Conference? Those were Kirk Herbstreit's words today. But remember, he says, I don't know how it's going to all play out. None of us does. But together, we're going to go where the story goes here at Peek Around the Corner. 67.7%. Okay. Well, we had to change it. And I know we're going to get hit on that, but we had to do it. Got to go where the story goes. That's all I'm going to say on that. Greg Nelson, I think my dad made a donation to Arizona to get me in. Freshman year's D's and French. No second year attempt. I live in Mexico, can't speak Spanish, over 4 years in Acapulco, where no one speaks English. Thank you, Greg. Thanks for coming on into the community. Well, my wife's from Mexico City, and she does a great job speaking English. She didn't start speaking the language until she came into the country in 1999. She speaks as good as English as I do. She can speak Spanish, and I can't speak a lick because language in my brain, I did not start hearing until I was 7 years old. And I never got held back in class. I should have. They just kept pushing me. I kept going from year to year, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. I'm taking all these speech therapy classes. And I was never held back. I should have been, never was. And now I'm here in front of you guys trying to talk college football. But thanks. Appreciate it. 72% chance. Got it. Somewhere around 70%. David Kreitzer, Arizona State's watching from Herm's vacated corner office. It's been a little while for me. Nice to make it to a live show. Fight on. Thank you, Grateful Trojan, for coming on in. So we're going to go to the phone lines. If anyone wants to give us a call, 763. Let me open that up. Now it's open. 763-260-1333. Arizona State Money Perch. Not expecting PAC to hold together through 2024. Washington and Oregon are going to get what they want. Let me know how wrong he is.
Call from
Eric.
Eric, thanks for calling. The floor is yours, good sir.
Hey, how's it going, my friend?
Doing good, doing good. How are you doing?
Hey, bear with me because I got a question for you, but I also want to get something off my chest because I can really relate to you in your situation. And I don't care if this sounds corny or what to some people. This is from the heart, and this is how I feel. You're an inspiration, and me and my wife really look up to you because we know what it is to overcome a disability. My wife has a mother-in-law who's deaf, and her dad speaks sign language, sisters that are deaf, and we both overcome disabilities in our life. Einstein says, if you teach I believe everyone's a child of God and everybody's talented at something. Einstein said if you ask a fish to, climb a tree, he looks like a fool. If you ask him to swim, he looks like a genius. And so everybody's really good at something, but you're an inspiration to us because we know what you've had to overcome. We know how hard you had to fight. I knew your story about being deaf until you were 7. Some people don't know that. And I personally think that what you do is amazing. And you give me hope and inspire me. And frankly, in this crazy world, you give me something positive to put my mind on for a while sometimes. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words.
We look up to you. I know we've never met, but when you talk to someone on a regular basis, back and forth for a while, you kind of develop a friendship, even if you've never, actually met the person. So we feel that we have a great respect for you. And frankly, we look up to you, and because I know, what it's like to go to a special tutor and overcome something. Having been premature in grade school, I was behind in reading. I had to catch up, and I went from grade school level to college level before I went in to even got, to high school. But it took a lot of work. So I know absolutely where you're coming from, and I just want to give you praise for that. And because I know what a good guy you are, I've seen you on this show. When you don't have the info, you say you don't have the info. When you're wrong, you admit you're wrong. You never take it personal or attack people just for agreeing with you. So I'll be honest, I'm kind of angry. I go to some of these sites. I don't care if people disagree with you or say they don't believe in your sources or whatever. That's fine. But I've been to some sites recently, I won't name them, that I frequent, where they've literally, it's gone over to the area of slander, in my opinion, and talking, attacking you personally. So save all and it makes me angry because it's uncalled for on either side.
It does come, I appreciate it. It does come with the territory though. So
yeah,
and you got to know that. So I'm okay with it. I just wanted to make it why I'm so curious about stories, because not all of us were. I just won't go down that rabbit hole, but I appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Do you have any comments about what the Kirk Herbstreit or others have been saying today?
Yeah, actually, I have a question about the contract, but I just want to say one quick thing. Just keep the receipt when this is all over, and just so you know, I always give them hell and defend you on my end. I don't send you the DMs of what I say back to some of these people. I don't get personal or anything, but I just lay them out with the facts, and you do got people out there defending you, so I hope you know that. But my question I have for you is, you hear the numbers from Jason Shearer, that I've heard everything from 19.5 and up to like 22.5, and that they're shooting for $25 million. If they could get that, some of the teams might stay. The question I have, and I'm not sure about this, but I've heard if Apple doesn't do production, they're not set up to do production. So if you sign with them, I've heard there's probably, even Jim has said this, Jim, he's been involved in production. Jim has said, the media guy, Jim has said that there's probably going to be a $15 million cut off that if you're with Apple to pay for production.
Yeah.
Plus there's the lawsuit from the Holiday Bowl that's probably going to have to be paid if they lose. Plus there's the money they owe Comcast. So what my question for you is, from that 22 million or 19 million, whatever around there, does that include all those deductions for those type of things?
We don't have numbers here at Peek Around the Corner. We haven't been able to confirm anything. We don't know about the. We know what Jason Scheer has said, and he has been nailing this story from the beginning. We know that. Can't get into why I know that, but Jason Scheer has been nailing this story from the very beginning. His sources on the $22.5 million might be correct, or these other numbers might be correct. The only thing I can, and then Eric, I'm going to get on to other phone calls if that's okay.
Sure.
But let me answer this question. The only thing that I felt the need to express this from a person that we know for a long time, who hasn't just nailed this story, but nailed stories for us for years. What he's telling us is their expectations is that they're going to get the numbers soon, and they're going to be difficult numbers. In other words, difficult in as you can't quite figure out what they're going to be at first. So that to us signifies that it probably is a streaming, probably has something to do with you getting a lot of money up front, but then you have to pay production costs. Maybe has ties in with subscription, fluctuating. He did use the word fluctuating. It could be more 1 year, less. They're going to be difficult to understand, difficult to navigate, difficult to figure out. They're not going to be able to get these numbers today and say, yes, we're in this deal tomorrow, or no, we're not going to do this deal. They're not going to be your traditional numbers that you're going to be able to figure out right away. What all that entails, we don't know. Does that entail Apple TV being part of this deal? We're leaning yes, but we don't know. We're just telling you what Arizona State believes is about to happen. The numbers are going to be difficult to decipher, and they don't think it's going to hold the conference together through 2024.
And not only that, they're going to have to pay Comcast, and they're also going to have to pay back the.
Well, they would have to do that no matter what deal they're going to get. So, no matter if they leave to another conference, they're still going to have to pay that.
Yeah, and they're going to have to pay the Holiday Bowl probably as well. The only thing I want to say in closing is you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Do you, be you. Same with the little general. And as I always say, Greg, keep soaring with the Eagles. Don't let the turkeys get you down.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet. Bye-bye.
To accept, press 1.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who is on the line.
It's Western Civic.
Oh, Western Civic. Nice to hear from you. The floor is yours, good sir.
Hey, our thoughts certainly with Coach Prime.
Yeah.
Wow, Deion Sanders, what a phenomenal athlete. I remember watching him when I was in college, watching him. You know, I played baseball. I love watching him, in his baseball, and those two sport athletes. And the Deion Sanders story today with his health problem is really an important story beyond football, important for humanity. And I hope that we really get into that at some point. But you bet those of us on the west side of the Rockies are fighting to keep the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders and his operation in our show over here. We absolutely are fighting for Colorado to keep them, despite their embarrassing record. And of course, that doesn't mean we won't laugh at them if they make this horrible decision. But anyway, thanks for mentioning that. And we really do need to pay attention to what's going on with Deion Sanders. I need a new sign-off. There, Greg. I'm going to double up. I think I'm going to go for annual playoff flexibility remains the key, and no war, if you don't mind. We'll get to that.
Got it.
And then I've got to answer the trivia question, but a couple of before we get there, we need to see some of. Remember Petitti's 33rd team? Boy, I'd love to get a hold of whatever modeling the 33rd team did about college football. That's something. And And then you also went on about relegation last time after I called, and I just wanted to say there is leverage, and let's just imagine this situation. If you get 3 conferences that go to 25 plus whoever remains independent, you're at around 75 plus 80 schools or more. That's like the cutoff. And now, so then there'll be like 60 other teams or whatever it is, 50, and you got them. You say, hey, we can provide a path for you if you let the third conference manage your football. So anyway, I think there is leverage, but it's been modeled out. Whether or not, you're right, Greg. I mean, there might be a master plan out there, but getting all these moving parts to adopt it is another story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, did you ever put any thought to that trivia question?
No, well,
You got an answer?
I guessed Air Force, so I
And
was
it's not
wrong.
Air
So let me know the answer. What's the answer
Okay,
to the
well, I'm
trivia?
going to start giving you some clues, and you just shout out at any point you think it's them. Okay, this is a founding member of both the WAC and the Mountain West Conference, but they are absolutely nobody's expansion candidate, though their geographic rival is often mentioned as such.
San
in the
Jose
board-
State.
What's that?
San Jose State.
No.
Oh, because I thought for sure you were going with Fresno State there.
Okay, that's good. But this is a place where P5 schools fear to tread, and the last one who dared paid the price, Missouri in 2018. This school has more trouble than just about anyone in scheduling home and home because no one dares go into their home field advantage, which is so extreme, it even has a disease named after it, quite literally. Any guess so far?
Hawaiian disease.
No. Texas Tech is going to start the year with a huge showing, the first P5 team to dare tread the frozen tundra at 7,200 feet. Texas Tech will open up there this year. Any
Boise
guess so
State.
far? Nope. They have an extraordinary record against the SEC, which rarely schedules home and home, and the only ones that have had the cojones to do so.
Wyoming.
There it is. Ding, 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 ding. Wyoming. These people are crazy.
Okay, well, I don't even, you know what? Now that we got the answer, can you remind me what the question was?
Yes. And it's a good question. Which Mountain West school had an integral role in Utah's share of the 08-09 Natty? Okay, and let me explain it. You mentioned earlier when the Zuby called up to make fun of Utah's completely legitimate share of the 08-09 Natty. What was it? The year that Urban Meyer went undefeated? No, that was 04-05. And in that year, there were 4 undefeated teams. And, I'm an Oregon and a Utah fan. It's been said, Urban, while he built our program, no doubt about it, the fact that he chose the Florida job before the BCS bowl selection is something that hurt us back then and ended up relegating us to play a 5-loss Pittsburgh school in the Fiesta Bowl, and Utah became the first BCS bowl buster, but had absolutely no claim on the Natty. That came in 08-09 when the season opened with a win at the Big House and ended at the Sugar Bowl with a win over Alabama. During that season, of course, they played a Mountain West Conference schedule, so people heckle that and what are you. And I went to one of those games on October 11th, 2008, when Utah went up and visited Wyoming in Laramie, the home of the Laramide disorder of nonstop winds at 7,200
all right.
feet. Okay, and here we go. Here it is.
Got it.
They beat the crap out of them. It was like 44-7. But then there was this obscure game In early November, for some reason, Tennessee scheduled Wyoming on November something or other, 7th, I believe. And they went down to Tennessee, and the Cowboys, the Pokes, you said Pokes earlier in the show, beat the Volunteers by a score of 13-7. The Volunteers went on the road and beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss went on the road to beat Florida at the Swamp. And that made Utah's claim to the Natty absolutely legitimate, as they were the only undefeated team remaining. They beat Alabama worse than Florida did, and the rest is history. And of course, the problem is the fact that we had BCS bowl selection. If we had annual playoff flexibility, maybe we could have solved that. Thanks for listening, Greg.
Got it. Thank
Annual
you.
Playoff flexibility remains the key.
No
And
war.
No war, my friend.
No war. No war. Thank you, sir. All right, Western Civic, talking about Wyoming and Tennessee and Utah winning the national championship. Holy smokes. All right.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. What's going on, sir? What did you hear what Kirk Herbstreit had to say?
I think he said that Greg is a man of immense patience.
That's not what Kirk Herbstreit said.
That's what Kirk said. He would have
Okay.
said it if he was here.
Okay. All right.
No, seriously though. I got here kind of in the middle of this, man, and I see this title. I'm like, holy, what am I missing here? Is this imminent?
The title being that Arizona State Money Perch doesn't believe the Pac-12 can stay intact through 2024. So in other words, Washington and Oregon are going to get what they want in this Pac-12 media deal, which means that they're going to get an accessible exit hatch if needed sometime during 2024 if they don't use it before then. That's what Arizona State's, that's what their perception is. That's why we had to move the line from minus 1.5 to minus 6.5, that the Big 12 was going to be able to poach the Pac-12. This was communicated to us Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, a little bit each day. The media deal is going to be difficult. They expect to see some numbers soon. When they see the numbers, they're going to be difficult to decipher, difficult to figure out what's in front of them. I think we can kind of guess what all that means. So not the greatest news if you want the Pac-12 to hold together with the 10 schools through the 2024 season.
So basically, none of these schools wanted to truly leave. They all wanted it to work out.
Yeah.
But if they were going to leave, they needed to have a solid reason to show to people why we had to leave. And that's what
I think
Money Purchase.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That makes sense. It did make sense that they all wanted to stay and that they were hanging in there with what little hope is left. But, it kind of felt like that was going to be the inevitable end. Otherwise, it wouldn't have dragged on this long.
Yeah, that's and then did you hear Kirk Herbstreit on the Pat McAfee show today?
No, actually.
Okay, well, there's so many new people who are coming in. Do you mind if I play that real quick?
I don't mind at all. Absolutely.
And then you'll get back the rest of your call here. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Let's see if I can find it again. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Let's see if I can actually... Okay, we're going to interrupt this a couple times, Brian, so just bear with us here. You still there, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay, let's Let's listen now. Pat McAfee asked Kirk Herbstreit a question, basically saying, look, this season, exciting storylines, da-da-da-da. And Kirk Herbstreit immediately goes into about realignment and how most people, if not everybody, is underestimating the amount of movement we're going to see in realignment. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
The lame duck thing is fascinating because all eyes, we did it last year. What's the playoff going to look like in 2 years from now? We did that last year. We were looking at it, and all of us, I think, while we're sitting on the set and we go to commercial break and we're walking back to the other one, it was like, that would be awesome. Like if that was happening right now, that would be awesome if that was to take place. We're gonna have to do that for another year, seemingly. So that's what you mean by like all eyes are pretty much on next year, even though there's some. I mean, is Kirby? Is his legacy?
Yeah.
Nick Saban bounce. There's a lot of storylines, but it does feel like next year's playoffs are going to be the big topic throughout the entire season. Is that what?
So Pat McAfee starts that interview, Brian, and everybody else is new who's come into the show this afternoon. Pat McAfee's talking about the storylines. Kirby Smart, can Nick Saban get it back together for Alabama? And going through this year, people are going to be looking at, expanded playoffs for 2024. What would it be looking like in the 2023 season? If we had it for the 2023 season, it's going to be fun to watch. We're going to be doing that peek around the corner. We're going to be imagining, pretending it's an expanded playoffs for this season, right? So that's where McAfee asked. Now let's listen to how Kirk Herbstreit answers the question.
What you're thinking?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, everybody's bracing for the 12-team playoff, which is cool and gets a lot of excitement. But I think what people are underestimating is how much more movement there's going to be in the realignment.
So most people underestimating the movement in realignment. Now, pay attention to what type of time frame he's talking about and what schools he brings up.
I feel like the Big Ten and the SEC, who are the big pillars in this whole thing, I just feel like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but they're not staying at 16. They're going to go to at least 20. And so who's going where, right? I mean, where's North Carolina going? Where's Oregon going? Where's Washington going? Where's Clemson going to end up? Where's Florida State going to go? Where's Miami? Like, there's just so much to me that's fascinating that I'm sure it won't happen. Maybe it will during the season, but I'm guessing it happens after this year.
So he says he doesn't. Now, of course, he doesn't know, Brian, right? He doesn't know. Peek around the corner, he definitely doesn't know. He can say, I don't believe it's going to happen this year, but after the season, yeah. I mean, he doesn't know, right? But he's thinking it could happen at the end of after the season. First quarter in 2024, right? That's what we believe that peek around the corner. We said in December of 2022 from the Florida State Money Perch. We said it then, that first quarter in 2024, that's the next big point of the ACC story that's going to drop, okay? I think that's what Kirk Herbstreit is alluding to here, right? He also brought up...
What did he say?
What?
He said like a certain number of, what schools did he mention in particular?
He mentioned he started with North Carolina. Where are they going to end up? Oregon, where are they going to end up? Washington, I believe he said Florida State, Clemson. He might have said some others.
He said Miami too, I do believe.
He might have said Miami, but he made it a point. He doesn't see it happening. It could happen during this season where we see the next shoe drop. But he's talking, I think what he's really saying is after the end of the season, 2024, the first quarter of 2024. That's what we've been hearing on Peek Around the Corner. That's what we keep saying. And Kirk Herbstreit he's not saying North Carolina is going to be in the SEC in 2024. I think what he's saying is we're going to find out more what's going to happen in the ACC after the season. That's what he believes. He says he doesn't know, but that's what he believes. Let's listen to more of this short interview.
So when I say lame duck here, you know me, I get excited about West Virginia Duquesne. Like I can watch that game and be very, very excited. But let alone
another example, please, another example so people understand what you're saying. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, bro, I love any sport. I love any game in college football, but I just think that this is going to be a fascinating time as we sit here and talk next June, getting ready for the 24 season. How many teams are going to be in the SEC? You know, how many teams are going to be in the Big Ten? What's left of the ACC? What's left? Is the Big 12 taking the Pac-12? Is the Pac-12 now the Mountain West? What's left of it? So we're going to have so many more answers that I find it interesting. It makes us all look to 24. So that's what I mean when I say in lame duck. It's not just that, you know, we're going to 12 teams for the playoff. It's a lot more than that.
So Brian, you heard that. That's what the show's about today. He says we're going to get more answers in 2024. What do you think?
It's very interesting to start hearing the conversation coming out from persons like him.
Yep.
I was actually going to say, the next thing I was going to say to you before we went into the video there was that I'm starting to get a sense from just being around and getting around that people are becoming open to that next phase of thinking. Like when it was all going towards 16, and I remember talking about 20 at that time, and that was crazy talk. And now we're at this point in time when we're at 16, and I've been talking 25. There's people talking 24, but most talk is to 20. His comment that he says is at least 20, which is a way to lean into going past 20 if you're talking about it. And if there's anyone that's connected that would know this across the board, it's a man like Kirk Herbstreit. And his connections with there where they go every week. I mean, they know people at every school. And
and he jumped into it. You know, he wasn't prodded by McAfee. He just jumped into it.
It seemed like it was two different conversations.
Yeah, Paul Feinbaum, you know, and what he said a couple days ago, and then, you know, and again, the Florida State Money Perch, who told us December 5th, December 12th, December 19th. We finally went with it on December 26th on Peek Around the Corner when he said that Florida State in a couple months we're going to start chirping about, you know, we're going to start getting the storyline that Florida State is potentially, and other ACC schools are going to potentially challenge the ACC grant of rights. And then that part of the story was going to happen. He believed in the first quarter of 2024. And now you're seeing Kirk Herbstreit saying, I think we're going to find more answers. Not how it's all going to play out, right? But we're going to find more answers early on in 2024.
2024 is definitely a target. You need to have it by then if you're going to make it by 2026.
Yeah. Yep.
Otherwise, they're missing that date. And for all the presidents to get involved in everything, for them to come up with a tournament thing, and it's only for a 2-year period, that was a compromise. Like the final decision. Yeah. Nothing like that.
Well,
it might be bigger, it might be less. It might be close to it, but that was a compromise.
Well, the reason, another big reason is, it was a compromise, but the compromise was because the current college football playoffs, the 4-team college football playoffs, in where ESPN holds all the content, goes into 2026. So the Big Ten, at that time the Pac-12, but mainly the Big Ten, Big 12 too, but mainly the Big Ten was saying, whoa. After 2026, ESPN cannot hold all the content to the college football playoffs unless they're the highest bidder for all 11 games. But having one network hold all the content, that's not healthy for college football. That's not what the NFL does for their playoffs. So to get to where there's more of an open bidding, I don't think it's a clear-cut open bidding. ESPN's going to hold a lot of power still. But to where we get other media partners involved, like an Amazon or Fox, for the 12-team playoffs, for those 11 games starting in 2026, they had to be, like what you said, a compromise, a deal where we'll do the expanded playoffs for 2024, 25, but 2026, it's wide open. We're not going to make any hard set rules for 2026. I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, and I'm not saying what it's going to be, but it's going to be different than what it is now. This is like a compromise deal with ESPN, as you're saying. ESPN are going to get a lot more money off of these than if it had stayed at 4. And they're also going to be able to figure out metrics for some of these games, because some of these games, if I'm not mistaken, are home games.
Yeah.
Or are they all going to be bowl games?
For 2024-25?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I thought I'd seen somewhere where they were talking about maybe having some of the first round be home games, and if that's, I don't know if that's true, but if that's,
that is what they're going to do. I think they agreed on that, right?
For conference tournaments in the future, so they're going to know the value of those games.
Okay, I think how it's set up now is the first round, seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to have home games against 9, 10, 11, and 12. No. The next round games, I think, are bowl games, but they want to, in the future, change it to possibly those top 4 seeds also have a home game on campus. Let me know. Grateful Trojan is agreeing with me.
Yep. That's what I remembered it to be.
That's what I remember as well. Great question, though. I mean, I had a mind... I couldn't think.
That's part of my analysis as to why I think that's just preparing for future. We're going to actually see conference tournaments be part of the process, because it's a metric grabber for what those games will be. And if you're having a conference tournament, those are all going to be home games, except for your championship game, which your conference already has a deal with some stadium to have it in. So that's, and personally, I think that's a lot more money for the schools to have those as home games than to have them as bowl games. Whatever game there is of having to be a bowl game, playoff game, is easily gained by having to be in your own stadium without having to pay the bowl committees and all of that. So it is just interesting that, like you brought up Kirk Herbstreit doing that, and 2024 would have to be the year that it is done by, because you can't just pass a brand new tournament and then have it start the next year. So you would think that it would have to be 2024 that this would all at least come out by. It's not sooner, but that seems reasonable to not break that out now just a couple months before the football season comes out.
Yeah. All righty.
Because that used to be Doctor's thing. But anyways, I appreciate it, man. I was just trying to catch up and what stuff came out in the beginning.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Brian.
Talk to you again later.
Great. Thanks for letting me step in your phone call to play that Kirk Herbstreit piece there. Appreciate it.
Anytime. That was perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call from
Soap, you're the floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Good afternoon, Greg. Hey, I read something rather unflattering about you on a tweet. I think it was you at least. They misspelled your name, but so I take it you know what I'm referring to there.
Yes, sir.
But I found it an insult to the PATC community as well, and I think it's almost humorous now that Kirk Herbstreit and Feinbaum are confirming what we've been saying for months now. So we're, the conspiracy theories are actually coming to fact. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but YouTube seems like the perfect place in the world to be able to say whatever you want and have any concept or theory on virtually anything. So I found it a bit disheartening that someone would lower themselves to a level to attack, people who are just trying to figure things out. But regardless of that, I got a great way for everybody to send that person a finger. Give them the thumb, man. Give them the thumbs up. How about that? Hey, the reason I called was I think we're at a point where we're starting to get a feel, and I'm just trying. Me, I try to read the tea leaves and try to use common sense to figure things out. But I think what we're looking at is a kind of the haves in the Big 12 or Big 10. I'm sorry, Pac-10, combining with the I have absolutely nothing, which are you have Oregon and Washington combining themselves with Washington State and Oregon State. They have no choice in the matter. So then it comes down to the people like Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. I've said all along, Colorado is gone. There's no doubt about it. Colorado is going to become a member of the Big 12. It's just a matter of time, and I think unfortunately the medical condition of Coach Prime could push that back a little bit, at least the announcement of that, and we hope for his speedy recovery from that. But I think that the real question is going to be Arizona. If Arizona, I think it's almost a given that Colorado is going to be replaced by San Diego State. They're not sure about Arizona, but I tend to think Arizona is going to go, and then they'll come in with SMU. So the real battle line here is drawn with Arizona State and Utah. If those two schools go, then that could preclude Oregon and Washington leaving early. So here's what I think this deal looks like to try to address keeping Oregon and Washington on board. I don't think it's going to be a contract in the normal sense with the entire league per se. I think Apple is the reason that it's taking so long. If you look back a month ago, Greg, you were saying that Apple doesn't kind of works at their own pace. They're known for taking a long time to do a deal and that so forth. So I think we're dealing with Apple here, and Apple has the potential to sit there and say they're going to have 10 different deals for 10 different members, and they could look at each member and say, we're going to pay you a fee of X amount of dollars for the network, but we're going to pay you based upon how many people you get from your school to sign up for the Apple programming. We will sell you just your school's games. So you can buy a season ticket to all of your school games, and you will benefit directly from that. Obviously, the teams like Washington and Oregon are going to benefit greatly from that, more than Oregon State and Washington State would. The question is whether that's going to be acceptable to Utah. I think it very well might be acceptable to Utah. Mm-hmm. How about Arizona State? Arizona State's got a lot of people that attend school there. That might be beneficial to them. But in all these cases, Greg, it's just going to be a two-year deal. So that's when you're talking about difficult, I think that's what we're referring to here. It's going to be difficult to figure out how much all of these schools are going to make based upon how many subscriptions they can sell. And I just
let me interrupt. I think you're right. I think you could be completely right or half right, but when the Arizona State Money Perch first communicated to us that it was going to be difficult, we thought he meant trouble, like bad numbers. Now they still could be bad numbers, but what he meant is what you're saying. Difficult to decipher, difficult to figure out. So it's going to take some time for the Pac-12 presidents and the athletic directors to figure out exactly what they have in front of them. Go on, continue.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Exactly the point. I'll just leave with a couple of things real quick. Number one, if the question I have for each member of the Big or for the Pac-10, is if you had the deal that was offered to you prior to going out to market, when ESPN and Fox offered you what ended up being the Big 12 deal, would you accept that now? And I think all of them would say, heck yeah, they would.
Yeah.
You know, and so they have, you know, you don't get too many second choices in life, but schools like Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah have a chance to accept that deal right now. And that's going to be difficult for them to turn down. And then the last thing, I want to send out props to Mona Vision. I was listening a couple of days ago when he gave his thoughts on the San Diego State exit and how that was going to be was a legal move to basically give San Diego State the opportunity to say, no, you can't charge us the double fee because we gave you notice, or challenge the other side of the coin, say, no, you threw us out of your league, and we're going to sue you now for throwing us out of the league. That's brilliant, and I've heard other people talk about it, and nobody has hit on that yet, and I just wanted to send out some props to him. So thank you for the time, Greg.
That was a great phone call, even for a Buckeye. That was a great phone call. So
very good.
All right, thank you, sir.
My best wishes to you and the little general.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Call from
Brian Martin.
Ryan Martin, can you hold on a second?
I can.
Or maybe you can even help me here. So people are talking about what is this deal that people are talking about that's on Twitter?
I went and looked at it. It's just some guy speculating based off of what's been leaked. It's not as concrete, whatever. He even talks about the particulars of the media deal being dated leaks. It's nothing.
Okay. I ask because no one if someone can send that Twitter to me, tweet to me, I would like to take a look at it. Someone DM me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Because peek around the corner, we are curious about everything. It doesn't mean that we're, saying it's accurate. We're just curious. We just want to take a look. That's why we take looks at Colorado Board of Regents meetings, agendas. We're okay. We take a look at it. It's okay. Okay, go ahead. Your phone call. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, and a little bit more on it. He gets some quote facts wrong, like talking about how there were agenda items like on Colorado BOR stuff specifically that were, giving their president the ability to sign off on a media deal, which that wasn't the case. That's not what any of that was about. That would have to have been a public vote, and that hasn't happened. At least it wasn't on the agenda that I looked at for the today and tomorrow's meeting for them as part of their retreat.
Yeah.
The thing that I wanted to talk about that I thought was most interesting was about the Kirk Herbstreit stuff.
Yep.
Talking about people underestimating the amount of movement. And I can't help but think, because it sounds like he was holding back from, they're going to at least 20. At least 20, which means that potentially they could go to more. So let's look at the math here. There's not at Big 12's at 12. Both the SEC and the Big 10 are at 16 teams, which means you'd have to get 8 apiece for both the SEC and the Big 10, and you'd have to get another 12 for the Big 12 to jump all of them to jump up to 24. Because at this point, Big 10 and the SEC, whatever the Big 10 and the SEC do as far as numbers go, the Big 12 is going to match that. They're going to position themselves to be the third best. But when you kind of look at all of the relatively obvious permutations of what's out there, for the Big Ten, if they're going to go to 24, they're going to take Oregon, Washington. They're going to take Stanford. I don't think they take Cal. I think that part of that foursome is Notre Dame. And then they take 4 out of the ACC. For the Big 12, they take the 4 corner schools. They take and they take 4 out of the ACC. They got to find another 4 somewhere. For the SEC, there are a couple of other obvious candidates out of the ACC that might get them to 6 more, but I don't see them going for anybody in the PAC, at least the PAC as it's currently constituted. So where are they going to find more teams? They're not going to be able to get them out of the Big Ten. I think that there's going to be more movement from the top of the Big 12 into the SEC. It'll be interesting to see who and what they pluck, because there are some pretty obvious things out of the old Big 8, the old Southwest Conference that would. It's for them. It's not about markets. It's about rivalry games and history and tradition, and kind of rebuilding that in what's the word I'm looking for here? In conglomeration, I guess. Mm-hmm. Kind of bringing the best of all of these teams together to create the best traditional football product they can. The Big Ten is going for the big national brand. Big 12 is going for the big basketball brand, and that may be how they get to 24. They may not have 24 football programs, but they might have 24 basketball programs. So, but that also means there might be some room, there might be some latitude for schools like San Diego State, UConn to actually make that little move up and still be part of the whole big enchilada as things end. Because that's about 72 teams is kind of about the max that you can get before you're not really getting rid of any of the drag here from the Power 5 conferences. So that's just my thought process on where this could actually go, what he means by underestimating movement.
And it's natural. We're all going to speculate on this ACC big drama, big story. When it implodes, we think, it's not going to survive like it is now. There's no way ACC is going to survive. There's no way they're going to be getting a new contract for 2037 with all 14 schools remaining. We all agree on that. Now, when people speculate what school is going where, it always comes back to me in this question. Like, I have a very strong opinion that the Miami of Florida is going to end up in the Big Ten.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. That makes so much sense from a market perspective for the Big Ten.
And I don't think the SEC is going to. But beyond that, yes, Virginia and North Carolina are going to be targeted. Florida State's going to be targeted. But beyond that, at Peek Around the Corner, of course, the PATC community is going to speculate on it. They're going to give their educated guesses on it. For me, I sort of hesitate to go further than saying I believe Miami and Florida is going to be in the Big Ten. And, of course, both SEC and the Big Ten are going to want North Carolina and Virginia, and they're both going to go after Florida State. Beyond that, I'm hesitating to say anything because for me, it largely depends on how these ACC schools go about trying to break the grant of rights. Once I know that story, and that's the story that's going to drop next, and we think it's going to happen first quarter of 2024. That's what we've been told for, for a long time, right? Since now, how it happens, how these schools approach it, what do they say, how do they go to the courts? The next big shoe to drop. The next big shoe to drop is not North Carolina, Virginia are going to the SEC. That's not the next shoe to drop. The next shoe to drop is Carolina, along with this school or that school, or independently, or Florida State independently. They are now going to challenge the grant of rights because of A, B, and C. How that is done, or what many people in the PATC community believe, 8 schools, right? The Magnificent 7, or whatever. These 8 schools are going to dissolve the conference. However that next shoe drops, then we're going to get a good, clear understanding. We're going to get some answers. I think that's what Kirk Herbstreit was alluding to. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. But I think that's what Kirk Herbstreit was alluding to. He said in that interview, I think we're going to get more answers. We're going to get a more clear pathway of what is about to happen in the ACC once how it develops, how that next shoe drops in the first quarter of 2024. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let me put this thought in your head then. We talk about them trying to challenge, break the grant of rights, whatever. There's already a way to do it. There's a way to say, this is what we'll do. It's the same model that's been done in every other conference when schools have left early. They simply pay. And there is, they talk about, that they're not making enough money, that they possibly can't possibly afford the buyout, right?
Yeah.
I think the bigger question becomes whether or not they can afford not to buy out, not to break, not to leave.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and the risk of doing nothing is so incredibly high that you make a good point, very good point.
And I think it's as simple as we're not going to challenge the grant of rights in court beyond seeking a settlement with with ESPN to see what they will settle for to let us out of this, so that way we can go where we want to be.
But it's going to be more complicated than that, because they can't just make a settlement with ESPN. They have to make a settlement with the other ACC schools, because according to the ACC bylaws, those other ACC schools get to collect all that revenue from those ACC schools that are departing. The other ACC schools have to be made whole in all of this. The Boston College, the Syracuse, they have to be made whole, or it's not going to work, in my opinion.
Well,
that's what the
That
ACC.
might be the rub then. That ESPN goes, all right, we'll guarantee whatever revenue that you were projected to make for the next 10 years. That's what you'll get paid. And that'll be your buyout, and then ESPN will pay the buyout because there's more value in some of those schools going there. I'm speculating.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well,
all right.
I will hop off and let
Got
somebody
it.
else jump
Great
on.
call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call from
Lewis.
Ooh, Lewis is on the line. The legendary caller, Lewis, the floor is yours, good sir. Did you hear? Did you hear what Kirk Herbstreit had to say?
I did, but that's a year down the road.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I see that's not happening this season, and so
Got it.
there's too much has to happen. I do think that I suppose the concern you try to cut out a good chunk of schools you get Congress involved in. I don't know if he's thinking about the SEC and the Big Ten are going to try to have their own playoff, which is possible. I mean, they could make that power move this time. I mean, the time to make it would be now. Once they do a deal, they'll be locked into it for several years. But boy, you're really getting into, unless you're adding a lot more schools, you tick off the wrong senator who has the wrong marks in Washington, and you could have real problems with antitrust and monopolies if you really try to. So I don't think. I mean, I want to focus more on what we think might happen in the next month or two.
Okay.
The closing of this chapter with the Pac-12. And I called last week, and I think I'm concerned the Pac-12 will probably stay together in some way. But what the Arizona Money Perch is basically saying, if you believe him, and he's been pretty accurate, is they're not going to have a grant of rights. If Oregon and Washington are getting what they want, if they don't have a grant of rights, neither will anybody else. So does that mean they all stick in? Nobody leaves now? And is that why Yormark's looking at other teams outside of the Pac-12 to try to nudge the Pac-12 teams in, because there may not be a spot for them later when Oregon and Washington do leave in 2 years? I think 2 years is the number because it's 2026. And Oregon and Washington don't want to be locked in locked in past then. And so that's a real problem, though, without a grant of rights. In addition to the fact that it appears to be some kind of complex streaming deal with probably some access to linear, in addition to perhaps ESPN being involved. But it sounds like Colorado and Four Corners schools don't necessarily have to leave, but let's say they do. Let's say the deal is such that Oregon and Washington get what they want. And they don't want to kill the conference, so 4 teams leave. You have 6 left. The Big Ten is not taking anybody else. Is the plan that Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State, they're going to add 4 group of 5 schools so the Pac-12 survives so that there's a Pac-12 left to build from in 2 years when Oregon and Washington leave? Is that the plan, is to keep the Pac-12 from imploding with this and just be a temporary survival situation? Because that's what would be proposed. The Four Corners schools, at least if you leave the Money Perch, he thinks there's going to be some movement. The Four Corners schools leave for the Big 12 because they have a more solid deal there. Is that what they're proposing, is the way to save the Pac-12? And if so, if this Pac-12 is doing a streaming deal and they're going to lose Oregon and Washington in 2 years, which is obviously the case if there's no grant of rights, then does that mean it's worth San Diego State and other schools to pay significant buyouts for that? Is the revenue going to be there for that? So there's some real questions if you believe that, if you believe it's going to be a non-grant of rights deal, because that's not how the game's been played. It would be a change to have a non-grant of rights deal. That's what I'm reading it. And I don't think it's going to be just a non-grant of rights for Oregon and Washington. It's going to be a non-grant of rights for everyone. And maybe that's what they think they need to do to survive, because maybe that allows Colorado to stay in the league for a couple of years and try this streaming on Apple, if that's what it is, because they can leave in 2 years, which might be the case. But I'm concerned. I don't know that anybody's in a hurry to go to the Big 12. I don't believe the Big 12 is going to add anyone. And this will be resolved. And after it is resolved, it will be the question of the Big Ten, the SEC. Those conferences have a lot more resources than anyone else. They will dictate who controls the next playoff structure. Yeah. Everybody's going to want to try to get in, and that's what we're going to be talking about when it comes to that. And there's this real concern because some good schools will be left out if those 2 conferences are able to leave. But at the same time, the world's changed so much. I mean, I look at West Virginia, their situation with Huggins out. We're not concerned in West Virginia about the coach. We're concerned about the players. Are the players going to leave or not? That's something we never dealt with before. Yeah. The world's changed. It's much more like pro sports right now. Yeah. So because of that, everyone's just trying to lock themselves in. The schools that have the power and the money, the Georgias, the Alabamas, they're going to be at the top. It's going to be difficult to challenge them because of the money. Although the grant of rights does level the playing field in basketball to some degree, where you can do fewer players. But in football, it's very hard to beat the top ones. It's a huge money rush. I know you jumped up to 6.5. We'll see if it's really that flimsy of a deal. Maybe some teams will leave. But I just want your thoughts, Greg. What do we have? We have a Pac-12 with Oregon and Washington, two very significant programs, and 8 dwarfs. And they're going to limp along with that for 2 years until they leave for the Big Ten. Is that what the plan is? I guess that's my question for you. And one final thing, if teams leave the Mountain West, I believe the Mountain West, the first team to be invited should not be North Dakota State. It should be UTEP. UTEP's been a loser in a lot of realignment moves. They were a member of the WAC in the 70s when Arizona was still in the WAC, and then they got left out, and they went to the Conference USA, which is a decrepit conference with almost half FCS schools. So I think UTEP would be a school that should move up. But I would like your thoughts off air on if this is true, the conference is going, Pac-12 loses teams that Oregon and Washington are in. Is the plan just to limp along and then create a Mountain West 2.0 in 2026? So with that, I look forward to your response, and you have a great show. And I block most of the people on Twitter that get personal with all this realignment stuff, so I don't know what was said about you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Great call, Lewis. When the Arizona State Money Perch says that he believes Washington and Oregon are going to get what they want, in other words, that exit hatch is going to be affordable. I don't think...
Call from
Monavision.
Can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
So, Lewis, it's not going to be, Oregon and Washington if they get the opportunity to leave within the next Pac-12 media deal, whenever that happens. It's not going to be like they get off scot-free. There are going to be some payouts to it, but they're going to have the ability to leave. That's what Arizona State is clearly, the Money Perch is clearly telling us, that they're going to get what they want out of this deal. The money's not going to be good enough for Oregon and Washington. It's not going to be what they want. The exposure's not going to be what they want. But they're going to get something out of this, and that is they're going to get an affordable exit hatch to get out. What happens if the Pac-12 implodes and they get poached by the Big 12 and the Big 10 in regards Pac-12 versus the Mountain West? I have no idea. I really don't. I've talked about it with people, but man, that is something that I can't give a peek around the corner because there's a lot of different things at play when it comes to that. We'll see if we get to that point. It will be very dramatic and interesting if we get to that point. And it's going to be heartbreaking for some schools and fan bases. No question about it. Oregon State, Washington State, among others. Monavision, the floor is yours, good sir. Oh, wait, one thing. Jay Kirkpatrick, thank you for your super chat. What's next for the Big Ten? Logged in late. Kirkpatrick, take a look at Pat McAfee's Twitter account. Kirk Herbstreit talks about in a 2-minute interview. We've gone over it a couple times. Take a look or go back to the start of the show. But I appreciate you coming in with your super chat. I appreciate it. Appreciate the generosity to the show. Monavision, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, Greg, I have to take exception with you. What was that for a Buckeye comment earlier? Were you still a little upset that I sent you the link to that 1989 Ohio State at Minnesota game?
I saw that. I saw the Gophers uniforms. I knew what was going to happen by the end of the game. I did not watch it again because I watched it when it happened. Just another devastating loss for the Golden Gophers. We had a couple of those against Michigan where we were up by more than 3 touchdowns, and we end up losing. So it's just one of those things. I didn't want to reopen the scar that was on the heart. My heart is filled up with scar tissue, right? Buckeye scar tissue, Wolverines, the Badgers, the Hawkeyes. And I wasn't going to reopen that up, so I did not watch. I just saw those ugly Gopher uniforms. I hate the double line down the pants. Just gross. That's not Gophers. But go ahead. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Well, I think it's interesting that Oregon and Washington are getting what they want. Of course, they're getting what they want. They comprise 60% of the value of that conference in football now.
Got it.
So, yes, everybody's going to give them what they want. They're going to get a short-term contract, an easier out, or the revenue exception for the playoffs and postseason, no sharing of that. They may not get the guaranteed money they want, Greg,
Yeah.
but they're going to get the potential. They're going to get the potential. With that revenue from the postseason, they could potentially get themselves to a 40 or 50 million total payout for just those schools.
Got it.
Obviously, Washington State and Oregon State aren't going to get that type of payout, but they're just happy to have a conference.
Yeah.
And I do think Colorado and Arizona still leave, but I don't think it impacts the media deal that much. San Diego State and SMU will come in at lesser members, so I don't think it's really going to fudge the numbers too much for everybody that remains in the conference. But I don't see the deal going beyond 3 years. 3-year deal guaranteed, 4th and 5th year options, streaming heavy. Everybody's going to take that time to make their best pitch to join a new conference. And that includes teams like Utah, Arizona State, Cal. I don't see Stanford joining the Big Ten. Just the academic cooperation requirements alone. I don't think Stanford wants the Big Ten anywhere near their research money. They don't want that at all. So they would be more than happy to just say, we're not playing, we'll just play in a local regional, a reformed PAC with Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, and San Jose State. Those research dollars are way, way, way more important for them. Appreciate the caller bringing up the San Diego State thing. I still haven't heard anybody give me a reply on why that can't happen. I think that has happened. I think that's why both parties have suddenly fell silent. Lawyers are furiously charging hours and billing hours and sending letters and thousands of photocopies of documents and conversations as we speak, setting that one up. And in California, I can only imagine the billing hours there when it runs compared to somewhere like Ohio State.
Yeah. A lot of lawyers are getting rich, man.
Oh, yeah.
In this ACC
I'm
stuff.
Sure that I'm sure the Pac-12 is sending some legal help their way as well. I wouldn't discount that.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately in 2026, because nobody knows what the format's going to be, how it's going to be, I don't see the Big Ten or the SEC keeping the automatic qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 12 best in. And if the other conferences want to kick up an issue and say it's antitrust, there's plenty of legal precedent to prove it's not antitrust. It'd be like the Division IIA saying it's antitrust that we can't play in the college football playoff. There's plenty of, it's like the USFL could say, oh, it's antitrust, we can't play in the NFL playoffs. You can have separate leagues. It's possible. It's not as big a threat. And the one thing that senators love more than anything else is money. And the Big Ten has got a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of donors with a lot of money.
And
the SEC's got a whole lot of money and a whole lot of donors with money.
The Big Ten.
Unfortunately, the way it works is money never sleeps.
Yeah. The Big Ten has a lot of money in reserve, just so they have a lot of money in reserve if they need to use it to help bridge the gap between a potential ACC school coming. There is some options out there for the Big Ten to put out some big loans and
make a lot of campaign donations, Greg.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I'm going to get off here.
Appreciate
I'll just end this with No future big expansion without Notre Dame, and no relegation.
No relegation. We do not want Minnesota to be regulated. Thank you guys for showing up today. I appreciate it. We had to do it. We had to talk about what Kirk Herbstreit said on the McAfee show. We had to talk about the Arizona State new information just given to us. Doesn't believe the Pac-12 is going to be able to help how they are constituted right now. Not going to be able to hold together through 2024. The deal is going to be difficult to decipher. It's going to take time to hash through it. They expect to see some hard numbers soon. They got to see it before the July 21st media days that the Pac-12 are going to have. So things are coming to a boiling point. We're still in Act 12. We're going to be in Act 12 for a little bit longer. Colorado's still in the center of the stage. Arizona's a couple arm lengths away. Arizona State and Utah are still in the front row. UConn is in the 10th row. San Diego State's in the 38th row. And nobody else is in the auditorium as we speak in the Holy Smokes Theater. Kirk Herbstreit said a lot for saying so little. He said a lot in the Pat McAfee show. If you missed it, go back at the start of our show. Give it a watch. ESPN, Paul Feinbaum. A lot of people are talking. A lot of talking going on behind the closed curtain. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Thank you. If you're new to the show at Peek Around the Corner, before you leave, please subscribe to our show. That's how you get notified of our next live show, of our next episode. And please share the video with your family and friends, word of mouth. We thank you so much. Thank you for the donations that we got today in this independent college football YouTube channel, the Rebel Outpost. Remember, here at Peek Around the Corner, we can agree to disagree with each other, just like we do on every single show. We are very curious. Everything about college football. Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban. We are curious to see if Alabama can get back together to become a national champion once again. We believe they're slipping. We believe Alabama's slipping. Tommy Rees, the new offensive coordinator, I think that's a big indication that Bama's starting to slip. However, you can disagree with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We cover everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you all for coming into the PATC community. Appreciate you all coming into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Keep your head on a swivel, because we can pop up again at any time. We could pop up again tonight. We could. We've been receiving a lot of steam lately, a lot of information. We had to share it today because this was 3 days of information given to us at Bits and Parts. We're connecting the dots here at Peek Around the Corner. I've enjoyed all of you, all your comments, your phone calls today. Once again, Peek Around the Corner isn't what it is without the PATC community. Once again, you are the star of this channel. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please pray for Deion Sanders, and please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.